Welcome to Part 2 of the Limited Conservatorship Workshop. This workshop is presented by the Superior Court of California, Santa Clara County, Self-Help Center and Family Law Facilitator's Office. The contents of this workshop are intended for informational purposes only and do not constitute legal advice. If you need legal advice, please contact a private attorney. During this portion of the workshop, we will go over the forms required to open a limited conservatorship case in Santa Clara County. Before starting this workshop, you should have filled out the required forms and have them in front of you. To get the forms, you will use one of the web-based document preparation programs linked on our court's website. The presentation slides will make reference to the form number, which you can find in the top right-hand corner of your forms, and the slides will also reference the page number of the form so you can follow along. The first form we will go over is Form GC-020, the Notice of Hearing form. The purpose of this form is to inform all persons entitled to notice of these proceedings of the date, time, and location of the court hearing. When you file this form, the clerk's office will write on page 1 the date, time, and department for your court hearing. After you file this form, it will be required to be served on the conservatee's first and second degree relatives who are over the age of 12. The Public Defender's Office, and the San Andreas Regional Center if the conservatee is a client there. On page 1 of Form GC-020, make sure that the petitioner's name and address is correct in the top of the caption of the form. The next section of the caption should show the address of the court. Below the address of the court, make sure the boxes are checked next to Conservatorship, Person, and Proposed Conservatee. The conservatee's name should be printed in the caption as shown on the slide. At item 1, make sure that the petitioner's name is printed there. Page 2 of Form GC-020 is the proof of service. Leave items 1 through 5 blank for now, as this will be filled out by your server later, after service is completed. For now, make sure the names and addresses of the following persons are listed at the bottom of page 2 of Form GC-020 and carried over onto the next page if there is not enough room. Each living first and second degree relative of the conservatee who is at least 12 years old, each proposed co-conservator other than the petitioner, the public defender, and the San Andreas Regional Center if the conservatee is a client there. First and second degree relatives of the conservatee include the following persons: the conservatee's spouse, children and grandchildren, their brothers and sisters including half-siblings, their parents, and their maternal and paternal grandparents. If any of those persons are missing from this service list, then please write them in before filing. The next form is GC-310, the Petition for Appointment of Probate Conservator of the Person. This form contains your request for a conservatorship and the basis for the conservatorship. Make sure that the petitioner's name and address is correct in the caption of the form. In the caption, the boxes should be checked next to Person and Limited Conservatorship. At item 1, the name of petitioner should be listed. At item 1A, each conservator should have their name and contact information listed. At item 1C, the boxes should be checked next to Bond Not Be Required and for the reasons stated in Attachment 1C. At the bottom of page 1 of Form GC-310, the box should be checked next to item 1G. By checking this box, you are asking the court to make a determination that the conservatee lacks the capacity to give informed consent for medical treatment, and you are asking that the court give you the power to make medical decisions on their behalf. On page 2 of Form GC-310, check the boxes next to items 1H and 1J. By checking these boxes, you are asking the court to limit the civil and legal rights of the conservatee and to grant you the power set forth in the attachments to this petition. If there are more than one conservator, then also check the box next to 1L. If there is only one conservator, then leave unchecked box 1L. At item 2, the conservatee's name and contact information should be listed. If the conservatee does not have their own phone number, then the conservator could list their phone number if they live in the same household as the conservatee. At item 3, check the boxes next to 3A, 3A1, and 3A1A. Item 3 states the jurisdictional requirement for this type of case. It is required that the conservatee be a resident of Santa Clara County. If they are not, then you cannot file this petition in Santa Clara County. At the bottom of page 2 of Form GC-310, check the boxes next to Is Not at items 3B1 and 3B2. Check the boxes next to items 3B3 and 3B7. Next to item 13B7, list the petitioner's relationship to the conservatee. For example, if the petitioner is the conservatee's parents, then you would write the word parent. On page 3 of Form GC-310, check the box next to 3C4, then list the relationship between each conservator and the conservatee. For example, if you, your spouse, and an older sibling are applying to conserve your child, then you would list parent, parent, and sibling here. At the bottom of page 3 of Form GC-310, check the box next to item 3F. On one of the attachments to the petition, you will be able to explain if one or more close relatives listed on the contact information for living relatives is deceased or cannot be located. You will also explain whether you can ascertain the conservatee's preference for appointment of a conservator. On page 4 of Form GC-310, read items 3 and 4 carefully and check the applicable boxes. If you answer in the positive to any of these items, you will have to provide additional information as requested by that item. An example of answering each question in the negative is represented on this slide. Item 3G asks whether another conservatorship case has been filed in another jurisdiction regarding the conservatee. Item 4A asks whether the conservatee is a patient in or on leave from a state institution. Item 4B asks whether the conservatee is entitled to receive benefits from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Item 4C asks whether the conservatee is a member of a federally recognized Indian tribe. At item 5, if the conservatee is currently an adult, then check boxes 5A and 5A1. If the conservatee is not yet an adult, then check the boxes next to 5A and 5A2 and write in the conservatee's 18th birthday next to 5A2. Please note that the conservatee must be at least 17 years and 9 months old before filing this petition. On page 5 of Form GC-310, check the boxes next to 5C1 and as follows, then write below the conservatee's medical diagnosis and whether they are a client of the San Andreas Regional Center. Leave item 5C2 blank as this petition is for a limited conservatorship of the person, not the estate. On page 6 of Form GC-310, check the boxes next to item 5E and the word is at item 5F, stating that the conservatee is developmentally disabled as defined in the Probate Code. On page 6 of Form GC-310, at item 8A, check the boxes next to will attend the hearing, is not the petitioner, and has not nominated the proposed. These boxes are checked by default. Whether the conservatee is actually physically able to attend the court hearing will be determined by their doctor and discussed later on. Check the box next to item 9 and will be filed before the hearing at item 9B to represent that a capacity declaration will be filled out by the conservatee's doctor and filed with the court prior to the court hearing. Check the applicable box at item 9D to represent whether the conservatee is or is not an adherent of a religion that relies on prayer alone for healing. On page 7 of Form GC-310, check the box next to item 11A, and then below you will write in the name, relationship, and residence address of each of the first and second degree relatives of the conservatee. Remember, this includes the conservatee's spouse, children, and grandchildren if they have them, their brothers and sisters, including half-siblings, their parents, their maternal grandparents, and their paternal grandparents. If a relative is deceased, then still list their name and relationship, but in the address column, write deceased. If a relative is alive but cannot be located, then still list their name and relationship, but in the address column, write unknown. On page 8 of Form GC-310, check the box next to item 12. There is also a place for the petitioner to date, print their name, and sign. Only the petitioner, the person who opens this case, needs to sign here, not all co-conservators. The attachments to the petition will include the information on the next 4 slides. Depending on the document preparation program you use to prepare your forms, the information may be presented differently on your attachments. There will be also a slight difference if you have only one conservator versus multiple conservators. It is okay if the information on your attachments are not in the same order as what is on these slides. What is important is that the information is contained somewhere on your attachments. Attachment 1C states that a bond is not required because this is a request for a limited conservatorship of the person only, not the estate. Attachment 1H and 1J set forth the powers that you are requesting the court grant to the conservators. If you have more than one conservator, then you should have an attachment 1L. If you have only one conservator, you should not have an attachment 1L. This attachment requests that each conservator have equal power, the decision of one conservator will bind the others, and the conservatorship will not terminate if one conservator resigns or dies. If one or more first and second degree relative of the conservatee have passed away, then attachment 3F is where you will write their name, relationship to the conservatee, and that they are deceased. If you are unable to locate a first or second degree relative, this is also where you will write their name, relationship, and what efforts you made to locate them. The court requires that you make due diligent efforts to locate them. This might require contacting other family members, former employers, and checking social media. If the conservatee is unable to state their preference for a conservator, this is where you will write a statement to that effect. Attachment 5F is where you will write the nature and degree of the conservatee's disability. This only has to be a short paragraph describing their disability and how that impacts their ability to perform daily tasks. On a different confidential form, you will be able to list more specifics. This is more of a general statement. The next form in the packet is PB-4002, Referral for Court Investigator. This form will provide information for the court investigator so they can do a background check and report for the court. In the caption, make sure the petitioner's name and address is correct. In the caption, check the boxes next to person and limited. Under the caption, check the boxes next to appointment and medical powers. Below, you will write in the conservatee's current address and phone number. In the bottom half of page 1 of Form PB-4002, fill in the requested information about the conservatee. If the conservatee does not have a social security number, then that item can be left blank. The question that says, special needs, for example, language, is basically asking what the investigator should expect if they talk to the conservatee. For example, if the conservatee is nonverbal or only speaks a language other than English, that is what you can write here. There should be a page 2 of Form PB-4002 filled out by each conservator. Their name, contact information, social security number, and driver's license number should be listed on this page. At the bottom of page 2 of Form PB-4002, the conservator will date and sign their page 2. On pages 3 and 4 of Form PB-4002, you will write in the names and contact information of the conservatee's first and second degree relatives. You can also identify any neighbors or close friends of the conservatee who you think would be good references. On page 5 of Form PB-4002, you will write in the names and contact information of any other adults age 18 or older who reside with the proposed conservatee. The next form is GC-320, Citation for Conservatorship. This form will be served to the conservatee to put them on notice that a conservatorship case has been filed and when the court date will occur. In the caption, make sure the petitioner's name and contact information is correct. Make sure that the court's address is correct as shown on the slide. In the caption, the box next to person should be checked and the name of the conservatee listed. Also check the box in the caption next to limited conservatorship. Under the caption, next to name, write in the name of the conservatee. At item 1B, check the boxes next to same as noted above, unable to provide for your personal needs, limited conservator, and person. Then write in the names of each conservator as shown on the slide. The rest of Form GC-320 will be left blank for now. Later, after service is complete, your server will fill out page 3. We will talk about that more later. The next form is GC-350 Letters of Conservatorship. This form will be signed by the judge at your court hearing if your request is granted. You will use this form to show your authority to act on behalf of the conservatee as conservator. In the caption, make sure the petitioner's name and contact information is correct. Make sure the court's address is correct as shown on the slide. In the section under the court's address is a place to list the conservatee's name. Check the boxes next to person and limited conservatorship. At item 1, check the box next to name and write in the names of each conservator. Also at item 1, check the boxes next to limited conservator and person. Then write in the name of the conservatee as shown on the slide. Check the boxes next to items 3 and 3A. On Form GC-350, check the box next to item 3G and check the box next to item 3I if there is more than one conservator. If there's only one conservator, then leave box 3I blank. At item 5, write in the number of pages attached to Form GC-350. At the bottom of page 2 of Form GC-350, check the box next to Limited Conservator as shown on the slide, and there is a place for each conservator to date, print their name, and sign. The attachment to GC-350 will contain the information displayed on the slide. These are the powers that will be granted to you as conservator. If you have more than one conservator, then your attachments to GC-350 will also contain the information displayed on the slide pertaining to multiple conservators. The next form is GC-340 Order Appointing Probate Conservator. This form will be signed by the judge at the court hearing if your request is granted. It has more specifics than the letters of conservatorship as to who attended the hearing and the specific findings of the court. This form will be served to all persons entitled to notice after the court hearing. On page 1 in the caption, make sure the petitioner's name and contact information is correct. The address of the court is correct as shown on the slide. In the section under the address of the court, write in the conservatee's name. Check the boxes next to person and limited conservatorship. At item 1C, check the box and write in petitioner's name. At item 1E, check the boxes next to attorney for and person cited and write in the public defender's information as shown on the slide. At item 1F, check the box next to person cited was and leave the rest of those boxes at item 1F blank. The judge will fill in the rest of those at the hearing. Page 1 of Form GC-340, at item 4, write the name of the conservatee and check the box at item 4A. At item 5, check box 5A if the conservatee is an adult, or check box 5B if the conservatee is not yet an adult. Check the box at item 6. On page 2 of Form GC-340, check the box next to item 12, write in Probate Investigator, and their contact information as shown on the slide. Check the boxes next to items 13, 16A, and 17A. At the bottom of page 2 of Form GC-340, at item 18A, write the name and contact information of each conservator. Check the box next to limited conservator and write in the name of the conservatee next to of the person of. Check the box next to item 20A, that bond is not required. At the bottom of page 3 of Form GC-340, check box 29 if there is more than one conservator. If there is only one conservator, then leave box 29 blank. Check the boxes at items 31 and 33. At item 34, if the conservatee is an adult at the time of the filing, then check the box next to date signed. If the conservatee is under the age of 18 at the time of filing, then check the box next to date minor attains majority and write their 18th birth date. Make sure the box under the judge's signature line is left blank. The attachment to GC-340 will contain the same powers requested in the attachments to the petition and should be the same as those attached to Form GC-350. The next form is GC-348, Duties of Conservator. This form sets out your responsibilities as conservator. On page 7 of Form GC-348, there is a place for each conservator to date, print their name, and sign. Each conservator must also download the handbook for conservators. You can download a copy of the Conservator's Handbook at the link shown on the screen. The next form is FW-001-GC Request to Waive Court Fees. There are fees to file this type of case unless you qualify for a fee waiver. The fee waiver is determined based on the conservatee's ability to pay. Therefore, if the conservatee directly receives public benefits or is supported by public benefits received by another for his or her support, does not work, is a low-income person, or does not have enough income to pay for his or her household's basic needs and the court fees, then you may use this form to ask the court to waive the court fees. Review this form to ensure that all the information in it is complete and accurate. On page 3 of Form FW-001-GC is a place for the petitioner to date, print their name, and sign. The next form has a cover sheet PB-4003-1A, and behind the cover sheet is Form GC-314, Confidential Conservator Screening Form. GC-314 is for the probate investigator to complete a background check and report for the case. There should be a Form GC-314 for each of the conservators. On page 1 in the caption, make sure the petitioner's name and contact information is correct, and the address of the court is correct, as shown on the slide. In the section under the address of the court, write in the conservatee's name. Check the boxes next to Person and Limited Conservatorship. At item 1, the first conservator, who is also usually the petitioner, should fill in their information. If they do not have a driver's license number or social security number, then those items can be left blank. At item 2A, write the conservator's relationship to the conservatee. At item 2B, write the number of years and months that the conservator has known the conservatee. At item 3, check the boxes next to I was not, Person, and by the proposed conservatee. Check the applicable boxes at items 4 through 6. On page 2 of Form GC-314, answer questions 7 through 20. If you check I have for any of these, you must attach a piece of paper and provide additional information as requested at each item. For example, at item 7, if you have filed for bankruptcy protection within the last 10 years, attach a piece of paper titled that page Attachment 7 and explain when you filed for bankruptcy and the circumstances surrounding that filing. At the bottom of page 2 of Form GC-314, there is a place for the conservator to date, print their name, and sign. Remember, each conservator must fill out and sign their own Form GC-314. The next form has a cover sheet PB-4003-1, and behind the cover sheet is Form GC-312, Confidential Supplemental Information. GC-312 contains confidential information about the conservatee. On page 1 in the caption, make sure the petitioner's name and contact information is correct. The address of the court is correct, as shown on the slide. In the section under the address of the court, write in the conservatee's name. Check the boxes next to Person and Limited Conservatorship. At item 1, write in the information for the conservatee. If the conservatee does not have a social security number, then you can leave that item blank. Item 2 will be pre-filled in based on your answers in the document preparation program. If you would like to add specific examples of hardships the conservatee faces, then you may do so. On page 2 of Form GC-312, item 3 will be left blank because that question concerns a conservatorship of the estate. At the bottom of page 2 of Form GC-312, item 4A asks for the conservatee's current location, item 4B asks for the conservatee's residence if different from their current location, and item 4C asks about the conservatee's ability to live in their residence. If the proposed conservatee is currently living in a group home, for example, then you would list at item 4A the conservatee's group home, but for item 4B you would list their residence, which may be your home. On page 3 of Form GC-312, Item 5 asks whether a less restrictive means of providing for the conservatee's needs is available, such as powers of attorney. However, if the conservatee lacks the capacity to voluntarily accept informal or formal assistance or to execute such documents, then you can write in "unable to accept" or another similar phrase to the same effect at items 5A through 5D. At item 5D, check the box next to healthcare. At the bottom of page 3 of Form GC-312, Item 6 asks for information about health services and social services received by the conservatee in the past year. If you can fit the information in items 6A1 and 6A2, then you can write it there, or you can explain it in an attachment. The document preparation programs tend to use attachments to provide this information. On page 4 of Form GC-312, check boxes 7A through 7F to state that your answers to the questions in this form are based on your personal knowledge. At item 8, check the box next to 3 as that item was not applicable to a conservatorship of the person. At the bottom of page 4 of Form GC-312, there is a place for the petitioner to date, print their name, and sign. The next form is GC-341, Notice of Conservatee's Rights. This form will be filed and served after the court hearing at which you are appointed as a conservator. This form states that even though conservatorship has been granted, the conservatee still retains certain rights. On page 1 in the caption, make sure the petitioner's name and contact information is correct. The address of the court is correct as shown on the slide. In the section under the address of the court, write in the conservatee's name. Check the box next to person. On page 3 of Form GC-341, leave blank the proof of service of mail for now. You will fill that out after you serve this document along with a filed copy of Form GC-340 to each of the persons listed on the service list below. Remember, service of this form will be after your court hearing. Ensure that the service list at the bottom of page 3 and on Form GC-341MA is complete with the conservatee, each of the first and second degree relatives who are at least 12 years old, the San Andreas Regional Center, and the Public Defender's Office. The next form is GC-335 Capacity Declaration. This form will be completed by the conservatee's physician to determine whether the conservatee is able to attend the court hearing and whether the conservatee has the capacity to give informed consent to medical treatment. On page 1 in the caption, make sure the petitioner's name and contact information is correct. The address of the court is correct as shown on the slide. In the section under the address of the court, write in the conservatee's name. Check the boxes next to person and proposed conservatee. In the section called To Physician, Psychologist, or Religious Healing Practitioner, check the boxes next to A and B. The rest of the form will be filled out by the conservatee's physician. This concludes part 2 of the Limited Conservatorship Workshop. In the next video, we will go over what to expect at your court hearing and the next step instructions for filing and service. If you have any questions or would like us to review your forms before filing, then you may scan and email them to us at ltdconserve@scscourt.org.